잉구마, 재밌어? 신나?
조나의 심경 변화. Looking out the bus window, Jonas could not stay calm. He had been looking forward to... 기대하고 있었군. Looking forward to this field trip. It was the first field trip for his history course. His history professor had recommended it to the class and Jonas had signed up enthusiastically. He was the first to board the bus in the morning. The landscape looked fascinating as the bus headed to Alsace. 알자스? Finally, 아닌데, Alsace. 몰라. Finally arriving at Alsace. After 3 hours on the road, however, Jonas saw nothing but endless agricultural fields. The fields were vast, but hardly appealed to him. He had expected to see some old castles and historical monuments, but now he saw nothing like that awaiting him. What can I learn from these boring fields? Jonas said to himself with a sigh. 실망했구만. 왜 나는 vast한 landscape 같은 거 좋아하는데. Just as I was approaching 30, I was offered the sponsorship to go to the latest professional golf association in the USA and attend their qualifying school. But I was very concerned about my family rather than thinking it was a good opportunity. If I accepted the sponsorship offer, I couldn't continue to work for Mom to help her out and to earn us some extra income between amateur golf tours. This would mean there would be less money coming in to begin with, though the sponsorship money would support me through qualifying school. Of course, there was a small chance I could make the grade to become a professional, which should lead to higher earning opportunities. It was a risk for us financially. I don't want to leave you in trouble, Mom. Never mind about that, daughter. Of course you must do this. It's a wonderful opportunity. We'll manage. She smiled. We always have up to now, and it's time for you to step out and take the chance. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure. If you don't give it a go, you'll always regret it. I was so glad to receive her support. Thanks to her words, I was able to move on to my goal with a lighter heart. 걱정했는데 안심했다. Excited, no. Jealous, worried, encouraged. It was the day when I had the opportunity to attend my first board meeting. I arrived early. It was a great honor that I had been asked to join them as a board member. Their mission was important. The other members were powerful, highly respected women from across the nation. I had heard about their work and their reputations for years. I was finally going to get a chance to meet them. As I walked into the meeting room, someone from the organization was already there, getting ready for the meeting. Caterers were bringing in delicious treats and hot coffee. I looked at the big mahogany table and quickly saw that name tags and binders were already being arranged and placed on the table. I saw my name with a handwritten note from the president, welcoming me to my first meeting. Quite frankly, I couldn't believe what my eyes were seeing. 흥분했어. 오케이. 글쓴이. 자, 분위기. Kelly turned away from the Christmas tree and saw her mother fussing at the kitchen sink. She was a few inches shorter than Kaylee and still healthy at 53. She looked to be in her early 40s with fine wisdom lines showing only when she smiled. Today she was smiling. She loved nothing better than to have all of her children in the house, sharing fun and food. The table was lined with shrimp and cocktail sauce, hot wings with dips, Swedish meatballs, ham and turkey, not to mention the variety of vegetables and dinner rolls. There was far too much food for 13 people, but the leftovers were always divided up and the tradition continued. Mom called the family into the living room. "It's that time." She smiled as she handed out stockings to everyone. This too was a tradition. The stockings held small things for each individual as well as candies and fun stuff. 축제 준비하고 있으니까 joyful and festive라고 하겠죠. 아이의 심경 변화. The door opened into our office area and a voice said to the secretary, "Where does Bolia sit?" It was the CEO's and I could hear him walking toward my office. He was a tall, muscular man. Suddenly he was standing in my doorway with his right arm raised. I was thinking, he's going to punch me. I was frozen as he walked over to the desk. I braced myself for the impact as he laid his arm on my shoulder and said, "Nice job, Bolia. It took a lot of courage to speak against me and you showed a lot of integrity. You never backed down and you described a future for the company that I had not considered." As he walked out the door, he said, "I wanted you to be the first to know that I approved the project you suggested." I was stunned. I had gone from near fainting for fear of losing my job to the delighted state of a conquering warrior, satisfied with myself for sticking up for what I felt was right. Within minutes, people were walking into my office congratulating me, an uplifting experience that I had me holding my head up high. 걱정했는데, 쫄았었는데, 기뻐. Worried and fearful and pleased and proud. 그쵸? Admiring, 미스퍼스는 아니고요. The role of the lion's historians. There is an African proverb that says, "Till the lions have their historians, tales of hunting will always glorify the hunter." 사자가 역사가를 갖지 않는 한. The proverb is about power, control, and law-making. Environmental journalists have to play the role of the lion's historians. They have to put across the point of view of the environment to people who make the laws. They have to be the voice of wild India. The present rate of human consumption is completely unsustainable. Forests, wetlands, wastelands, coastal zones, eco-sensitive zones, they are all seen as disposable for the accelerating demands of human population. But to ask for any change in human behavior, whether it be to cut down on consumption, alter lifestyles, or decrease population growth, is seen as a violation of human rights. But at some point, human rights become wrongs. It's time we change our thinking so that there is no difference between the rights of humans and the rights of the rest of the environment. 바른 소리를 하란 소리죠. Uncovering the history of a species' biological evolution 아니고 이건 비유적인 거니까 urging a shift to sustainable human behavior for nature. Fighting against widespread violations of human rights 아니지. Rewriting history of more underrepresented people 아니고. Restricting the power of environmental lawmakers. Restricting 아니고요. 아닌가? Urging a shift to sustainable human behavior for nature. 아직 2번이 맞는 것 같아요. 그렇다고. lawmakers를 restrict 하는 것까지는 아닌 것 같고. We are often 밑줄 친 hold their cards too close to the vest. We are often told that there is no innovation without competition, which is absurd given that Most of the greatest innovations in science and technology have resulted from the sharing of research across the academic silos. 나 이거 absurd 뜻 알았었는데 까먹었어. National borders and language barriers. In truth, no great innovations occur in isolation. Personally, I have been asked to sign an awfully large number of non-disclosure agreements from other researchers terrified that their ideas In truth, no great innovations occur in isolation. Personally, I have been asked to sign an awfully large number of non-disclosure agreements from other researchers terrified that their ideas will get out. But in truth, I found this approach counterproductive. Those who hold their cards too close to the vest are rarely the ones who play the winning hand. It is when we share our findings with people with other ideas of expertise or perspectives, or seek feedback about our concept from someone in a different field, or try out our idea with potential users, that suddenly the real potential starts to emerge. 너무 쪼이는 거를 의미하는 것 같은데. Think of themselves as always right. 아닌 거. Refuse to share their ideas with others. Are not ready to accept innovative ideas. Steal someone's idea without saying anything. Cherish the time they spend with a special person. 2번 아닐까? 다시 읽어볼까? 나는 sign an awfully large number of non-disclosure agreements from other researchers, terrified that their ideas will get out. I found that this approach counterproductive. Those who hold their cards too close to the vest are rarely the ones who play the winning hand. 어쨌든 아이디어를 지식이랑 이런 걸 공유하고 그러는 것이 좋다는 문맥이니까 2번인 것 같고. Muhammad must go to the mountain. A family from Israel who moved to Northern California was amazed by the isolation they experienced when they moved into their San Francisco neighborhood. They had lived in a kibbutz where they experienced a strong sense of community in every sense of the word. When we moved here, said the father, it was culture shock. People nodded and smiled with a brief hello coming and going, and then disappeared into their own dwelling, and we wouldn't see them again for days at a time. One night, my wife suggested that if the mountain wasn't going to come to Muhammad, then Muhammad must go to the mountain. It was at that point that we realized we had a gift to bring to our neighbors, the gift of community. Over the next few months, the family organized a block party, a neighborhood yard sale, and an open house brunch. Each was a big success. People became friends, and the connections snowballed. A small babysitting co-op began in the neighborhood, as well as a family neighborhood cleanup event that took place at the beginning of each season on a Saturday morning. 이렇게 네가 다가가라. The family should go back to their hometown. 아니지. Problems of the community can be postponed. 아니야. The family should first approach the neighbors. 이거죠. Cooperation is essential for the protection of nature. 아니고 the cause of the neighborhood conflict must be removed. 이것도 아니야. 그러면 20쪽까지 풀었으니까 답을 맞춰봐야지.
빨리 와. 빨리 와. 성금아.
Gateway 5번. 1번에 2번, 2번, 3번, 3번. 26, 풍경 분위기 파 게이트웨이 1번 1번에 4번 3번에 1번 4번에 1번 그래 함축적인 의미 파악 게이트웨이는 2번 1번에 2번 2번에 3번 여기까지 그리고 내가 몰랐던 단어는 absurd 뭔가 막 just absurd 몰라 이거 비루한 이런 거 아닌가? 아닌가? 완전 틀린 말은 아니네. 비슷한 것은 ridiculous, absurd, 우스꽝스러운, 터무니없는, 불합리한, 부조리한. Which is absurd given that. 오케이. 여기서 given that이 그 구문이다. 오케이. ridiculous. ridiculous. absurd는 ridiculous라는 뜻이다. 오늘 공부 끝.